The 12th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.
Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news. Once again, from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, here is your host, Kathy Wyatt.
I never dreamed I'd get to be this old before I was a poster child, but, but that's what happened. You don't realize until you actually retire that everything you've heard all these years about, you're supposed to have money set aside, you're supposed to have an annuity or stocks and bonds or something before you retire. It's really true. But when you start living on Social Security and the cost of everything you have to pay for starts going up and up and up, you realize it's too bad you didn't save.
Yes, it is, but fortunately for Helen and countless seniors like her, there is hope. Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, reverse mortgages. Joining us to talk more about them are Jody Smythe, a reverse mortgage consultant with Wells Fargo Reverse Mortgage, Ken Kilman, a reverse mortgage counselor with Consumer Credit Counseling Service, and Walt Slabotsky. Walt helped his mother obtain a reverse mortgage in 2007. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Welcome to the program.
Pleasure.
Jody, we're going to start with you. If you could tell us, what is a reverse mortgage?
It's a special type of home equity loan just for seniors where your home can actually pay you monthly payments instead of you making monthly payments to the bank.
Okay, and who qualifies for something like this?
You need to own your own home. You have to be at least 62 years old, and you either need to have your home free and clear or have a fairly small mortgage balance on the home.
Okay, wonderful. And we have a graphic showing that information for folks so that they can see. Now let's talk about the eligibility for home types themselves. Are there any homes that are excluded from this?
Yes, you can actually live in up to a fourplex as long as you live in one of the units. You can do a reverse on the entire building. The homes that will not qualify are co-ops. You may be in an independent living facility where you actually bought into your units. Those are not eligible. Single family mobile homes are not eligible. Farms are not. We can do 20 acres or less on a single family. And you can't be on leased land. But anything other than that, the typical one we see is just a regular single family home.
Okay, thank you. And Ken, how is a reverse mortgage different from a home equity loan then?
Well, home equity loans, you generally have to qualify, which means you have to have some income usually, and you have to make payments on it. Whereas with a reverse mortgage, you don't have to have, there are no income qualifications, and you do not have to make any payments on them. So that's the primary difference.
Okay. And Jody, lots of benefits that are associated with a reverse mortgage, and we have a graphic of those benefits. So we want to walk people through what we're actually going to be experiencing when we sign on for one of these. So what are the benefits for folks?
Well, you can actually receive monthly income. You can take money as a lump sum, or you can have a line of credit and make draws as you need it. If you have an existing mortgage, that would be paid off with part of the proceeds of the reverse mortgage, so you wouldn't have that payment obligation anymore. This money is tax-free. It's not considered income by the IRS, so it doesn't affect your Social Security, your Medicare benefits. It also won't affect homestead exemption if you get homestead exemption on your property taxes.
Okay, let's walk through briefly, since we mentioned that. Tell folks what the homestead exemption is.
For those folks that meet a certain income criteria, if you are under a certain amount of income in the state of Nebraska, and your assessor's office will have this information. If you're married, you're allowed to make more income than if you're single. But under certain circumstances, you can get either a percentage of your property taxes waived, or under certain circumstances, you can get 100% of your property taxes waived due to your income.
Okay, thank you. Sounds pretty good so far. Are there any drawbacks that we need to be aware of that would be associated with a reverse mortgage?
The main drawback would be that there are closing costs associated with this loan. So you don't pay them up front. They are to be paid back to the lender when you eventually sell your home. That's when the lender gets paid back because you make no monthly payments on it. So the closing costs are fairly substantial. They're about 5% of whatever your house appraises out at. So if you wanted this for short-term money, it's not economically advantageous to do that. If you're going to stay in your house at least 3 to 5 years, this is a great program. But for short-term money, it's not a good fix.
Okay, and what would some examples of be of short term that people would be looking for some dollars for?
If you are trying to sell your house to move into assisted living or independent living or something like that, and you can't get it sold with the real estate market the way it is right now, that would be short-term money, and that's not a good fix. If you were planning to sell the house in the next year or two and move to Arizona or somewhere warmer than Nebraska, that's not usually a good idea.
Okay. And Jody, curiously, there are people out there who are trying to sell their homes right now because of exactly what you mentioned. They are looking to go into a senior living community, but they're having difficulty getting that home sold. What are those folks doing right now?
Some of them are getting a regular home equity loan and making payments on it short term. You can get some equity loans that are just an interest-only payment to try and get by until you can get that property sold.
Okay, thank you. And Ken, you are a reverse mortgage counselor. So what is really your role in all of this process?
Well, when they came out with the reverse mortgage program over 20 years ago, they the government wanted seniors to get information from a party that had really no interest in whether or not the loan closed or not. So they wanted an independent voice, and so they put in a requirement that before somebody can get a reverse mortgage, they have to have counseling from a counselor.
Okay, and what types of folks do you see coming into your office for that?
Well, all kinds, because nobody can dictate how somebody uses the proceeds of the reverse mortgage. So the types of people that are getting reverse mortgages run the gamut from those who are really running short on their income. Maybe they're only getting Social Security, or maybe the pension that they were depending upon has they're not getting the income that they thought they would because of the way the stock market has reacted. To people who are getting reverse mortgages for vacations or other sorts of more major purchases. So it really runs the gamut from people who are using it for basic needs to people who are using it for more optional reasons.
Okay, and I would imagine yours is not an easy job by any stretch. You have people coming in whose lives are changing, who are needing some assistance, who are looking to you for help. What kind of training is involved in what you do for folks who are interested in that?
Mm-hmm. Well, you have some initial training that's done through AARP, and then some testing. And there's a new counseling protocol that's coming out that's going to require even more continuing education in reverse mortgages. So there's kind of an ongoing situation.
And with this being an up and coming, what types of individuals do you believe would be best suited for the job that you do? We have an aging population. There are going to be more and more people who are going to be looking for assistance, not only in this area, but others as well. So for someone who might be watching, looking for some type of career change, what individuals are we looking for here?
Well, certainly it's important to be aware of the different kind of resources that are available to seniors, and then also to have some knowledge and perhaps some training in the area of money management, and of course knowledge about mortgages wouldn't hurt either, so that you get some idea about what's actually going on.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And Walt, you went through all of this with your mother not too long ago. Can you kind of take us from start to finish with your process, even backing up to the time that you realized there had to be another option for your mom in order for her to be able to live comfortably?
Well, my mom was probably one of many of the people like living in Nebraska that are living just on their Social Security. And as she was about 84, 85 when she first started, kind of thinking about another income source. So we started exploring, the reverse mortgage. With her, she had high prescription bills, running probably $600 a month. She was fully exempted from taxes. She had applied for the homestead exemption, as Jody talked about, so it worked perfect. She thought over it. She didn't need a monthly income, but she just needed maybe a source of funds that she could obtain, and for like house maintenance. I know she went ahead and put in a new driveway, and just having that independence to be able to do it. Another thing that was important to her is she wanted to settle all of her funeral expenses. So she funded her funeral expenses through the reverse mortgage. And she opted to take like a deposits at a certain time, just a lump sum amount, rather than a monthly. And it gave her a lot of independence. She stayed in her home. She was one of those people that wanted to stay there, was most comfortable in her own home. So it was about the greatest option that you could have. Now she's since passed. The home has gone up for sale. There's no payments while it's up for sale. Wells Fargo Mortgage works with us. They want to know what we're doing, how we're appraising it, but it sold here about a week ago. And so that makes it easy as far as settling the estate. So I would recommend it to anybody. I mean, she owned the asset. It was just sitting there, but having access to it, and access to it without, she had, the only income was Social Security. So having that ability was just great, provided her a whole lot of independence late in her life when she needed it.
Absolutely. And how, curiously, did you hear about reverse mortgages?
Well, specifically through Jody, Wells Fargo, promoting the program. And, I think my mom looked at it and she thought, no, what's this? She needed a little bit of time to kind of digest it. And, is this the right thing to do? But Wells Fargo provided counseling for her that, like Ken does, right in her home. So she didn't even have to leave her home. They provided the closing of the loan right in her home. And again, for I'd say someone in the older age group, I mean that means a lot to them.
Well, exactly. And my question was going to be, there are going to be folks watching who are going to think, what's the catch in all of this? This almost sounds too good to be true, and your advice would be?
Oh, I don't think there's any catch whatsoever, and stuff. I think Jody explains it very well. And again, the biggest thing that it provides is independence. The money is one part of it, but the independence that they can, do what they want. They can fix their driveway, fix their roof. Older people are independent people, and it's just a great resource for them.
And it's also, though, in some regard, we talked a little bit about change earlier. There is somewhat of a fear of delving into something new, especially when you're looking at it from that standpoint. Try to alleviate people's concerns who are watching, who are thinking, gosh, that sounds pretty good, but I'm not sure I want to take the next step. What would your advice be to not only the senior, but the families who would hopefully be supporting that senior?
Well, the families, I would definitely recommend, that several of the family members get involved. But take advantage of it, have them come into the home, have them explain to you what the process is, go through the counseling, and at that point, if it's not for you, you could always say no. But again, I'm just saying it's a great, great tool for keeping somebody independent. And that provided a lot of de-stress. Where's the money coming from? My prescription bills keep going up. I can't use this one. I need to order some more. Sometimes the older generation, they stop ordering the prescriptions. Well, you don't want them doing that either, and stuff, or they, won't ask for help or whatever. So it just a great, great tool. Couldn't say more about it. I mean, really, highly recommended.
Very good. And Jody, this is not anything real new. This has been around for a while. Why the big interest now?
This program has actually been around for about 20 years with FHA, with a government sponsorship on this. People were afraid of it. There were old wives' tales. In the past, prior to FHA insuring these loans, there were lenders that kept title to your home, and you didn't get your home when you passed, your children didn't get your home when you passed away. And that has not been that way for 20 years. But the myths are being gone away with. Financial planners have figured out this program and are using it as a tool to help their clients supplement their income, make some changes. Stock market isn't quite where it needs to be, and so there's a lot more education out there now than there was 20 years ago.
And Walt walked us through just one of, I'm sure, countless scenarios from where you're sitting. You do this all the time. This is your life's work. Tell us about a few other typical scenarios, reasons that people would call you and want to investigate a reverse mortgage.
I have people everywhere from their home is in foreclosure and they're trying to find any way to stay in their home, to people that want to travel. A lot of our family members aren't close by anymore. They're in California. You don't want to get in a car and drive for days, especially if you're in your 70s, 80s. Those plane tickets and all that are expensive, and they want to be able to see their family members while they're still in good health. And then the typical person is someone that is either trying to supplement their income. I have boomers that can't retire because they have an existing mortgage payment, because we were all taught to leverage, 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 and we've got home equity loans for the car and things like that. And then I also have another group that uses it to modify their homes so they can stay in their homes. They're putting in ramps, they're widening doors for wheelchairs, they're making roll-in showers, they're paying for in-home care so they don't have to go to an assisted living facility. They can stay in their house longer.
Excellent. Walk us through, if you could, because again, you deal with this all the time, the various financial scenarios. So think about that paperwork that's sitting on your desk right now. You know, a person comes into you with this particular setup. This is how much their home is worth, this is what they're looking for, so that we can kind of get a better sense for what's really involved in this process.
The amount of money that you can get from a reverse mortgage is based on your age and your property value. The older you are, the more money we can give you. It's actually a good thing to be older for a change. Because you never make a monthly payment on this, and because you pay back what you've borrowed when you vacate the property, whether you're selling your house or you pass away and your heirs are selling your house, when that gets paid back, there has been interest that has accrued on this loan over the lifespan of this loan. So obviously, if you're older, you have less accrual of interest over the time, and that's why you get more money. But we can set it up with either a lump sum or monthly income, and it's all figured on your property value and your age.
Okay, very good. Ken, anything you want to add to that?
Well, it does bring up a point because getting a reverse mortgage is also a function of timing. And so consequently, part of the consideration is this the appropriate moment? Are there other resources that maybe aren't as expensive as far as those startup costs that are available? Maybe they're public resources, or maybe they have personal resources that they might want to tap before they go to the equity in their homes. So every situation is different. Everybody, again, nobody can dictate how people use the proceeds of the mortgage. And so, you know, every situation has its own little details. So.
Okay, and like anything else that we are exploring, the people with whom we are visiting, those that are counseling us or consulting with us, are going to be critical to our own personal successes. So, Jody, I want to ask, how many people like you who spend full time on this, plus, I would imagine, are there across the state of Nebraska? What would you guess would be the people putting their life's work into what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, at Wells Fargo, we have 6 across the state that handle it. There are other lenders out there. There are some brokers out there. Not all of them just specialize in this. Some of them do regular loans also. So to give you a head count, I would say there might be half a dozen other lenders that do it full-time.
Okay, and how would a person go about, because we all want to do our homework, we all want to do the research, how would an individual actually go about finding the best information out there? What would be the first step that they would take?
A lot of people check with AARP. They have information online. You can call the counseling agencies, call your local lender, see if they do them. There's just about, boy, I don't know. I mean, there's so many sources now
Right.
compared to what it was when it first started out. It's if you have family members that are on the internet, if they just Google reverse mortgage, you can get overwhelmed with information. I have a website too, and there's a calculator in there. You can go in there and calculate how much money you can get.
Okay, and Ken, Jody brings up an interesting point. We always have a family dynamic involved in just about anything we're doing. And as we age, it seems that there are people that come on board who truly want to help, and others who are just kind of voicing their opinion. And I would imagine you deal with family dynamic at least a little bit in what you do from a counseling perspective. First of all, what would you say to those family members out there who are thinking about this and how that might be good for mom or dad in the way of just kind of helping jumpstart this process for them?
Well, the key to any family dynamic, and sometimes it's hard to initiate, but open communication is really the key. If people can be honest about their expectations and about what kind of legacy that an individual wants to leave, or what kind of legacy the heir is expecting. Many times I think the major concern of family members is simply that seniors maintain independence and are able to take care of themselves. I occasionally get a feeling from seniors that they're more concerned about leaving more in the way of resources for their heirs than the heirs are about actually receiving it. It's not always true, but I think oftentimes it is. So it's a matter of it's a frank discussion, and it's encouraged in the counseling protocol that seniors be disclosed to the heirs, so that there's no misunderstanding when it's time to settle up affairs. If the heirs didn't understand that there was a reverse mortgage in place, that might lead to some surprise, and so open communication is best. It's not demanded, but it's best.
Oh, you bring up a great point. Communication is key, and there are some that are going to do a little bit more effectively than others, but getting folks onto the same page is going to be critical here, and getting them to understand that at the end of the day, we are trying to give a senior, encourage them more independence in a safe and secure environment, which happens to be their home. Walt, anything you want to add to the whole family dynamic?
Again, I wouldn't even see that being a problem. I mean, just invite another family member in. I'll relate it to when my mom used to go to the doctor. Come on in the room with me so you hear what's said too. Sometimes afterwards people hear different things. So you get a family member involved. If not a family member, a trusted, maybe somebody that's going to handle your affairs after you're gone. Get them involved. But the program itself, again, it's not so much the money as I saw the independence. If you want to stay in your own home, here's an option to stay in your own home. And you're doing it yourself, not somebody's helping you. And that's important to anybody, whether you're a senior citizen, a young person, or whatever. You want to be independent.
Absolutely.
Here's a great tool.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And Jody, so for those people who are watching, who are now very interested in this, thinking that's a route that I want to explore, walk us through the process step by step from start to finish.
Okay. The first thing I would do is find a lender that does reverse mortgages. As I said before, call your local bank, see if they do it. If they don't, they may be able to recommend somebody. Or you can always call me. Then go interview that person. See if your personalities click. You're going to be working with this person for a while. Don't call the 800 number that you see on television for a free DVD. That is going to sell your name to list buyers. You're going to get people from all over the United States trying to get you to sign on to a reverse mortgage when anybody that you call within the state will be able to get you information with no obligation, and you're not going to get hounded. So you go find a lender that you like. Then you will set up your counseling with someone like Ken, who will get your education piece. You will get a certificate that says you've attended that education. Takes about an hour. From then, you are free to go and apply for the reverse mortgage with the lender of your choice. That certificate that you get for your education is good for 6 months, so you don't have to feel hurried, rushed. Once you apply for the loan, the lender will order an appraisal. They'll send an appraiser out there to give us a value on the home. They will not go off county assessor or internet, anything. They will actually send out an appraiser who will give us a number. It usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks to close on this loan, and at that point you get however you wanted the proceeds.
Okay. And Ken, obviously it's great news for people who didn't really know a whole lot about it, and now it's an option for them. But let's back up a little bit into our proactive mode of backing up several years. I mean, really the key to all of this is financial planning, making sure that you're doing what you need to be doing well before you get to a place where you might qualify for something like a reverse mortgage. So from a counselor standpoint, what would your words be to those people watching as far as financial planning?
Well, a reverse mortgage is a piece of the financial puzzle. It's not a whole answer usually, and so certainly, one of the basic fundamentals of personal finance is knowing where you stand. So getting a real handle on where your money is really going and where all your resources are available, so that you can actually see how they all fit together and how you'd like to coordinate putting them together and what you want to tap and when. And so I think that's very important. If you don't know where you are, it's really hard to map out any sort of steps forward. So I think that's really key, is to get a real handle on where you currently stand. That's becoming a bigger part of the counseling, looking over a person's budget. Just from a recent training, they were saying that certain warning signs, or what HUD's going to be interested in looking at, is people who take out lump sums, because there is concern, and there always has been, that there might be individuals out there who talk an individual into taking all the equity out of their home and investing it with them, so that these people can get some kind of a large financial return on the elderly's financial resources.
And not to interrupt, but we want to put up a graphic that shows people the rest of the information.
Sure.
We appreciate your advice. We do have a graphic there for more information, 3 pieces, 3 options. Take a look at those. I want to thank our 3 guests for joining us today, and to you for watching. We will see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours.
The 12th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.